evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome headlines. We are back. But the headline tonight is about the election. The jury and the jury of this election. The president won this election by 71.6%. It is only bettered by the 1996 election where he was at 74%. The biggest question is what is happening to the NRA in the next 5 years? Or the president too. Shall we be able to see a surprise this and more? The biggest questions are the elections started last week, heavy deployment there, but also a lot of irregularities and allegations made. Numerous number of children or young men and women arrested, but also numbers killed during these elections. We look at it and ask ourselves, where is our country going? Project Uganda, who is at the forefront of steering it in the right direction. And let's get to the guests that have been in the studio today. In the studio, on my immediate left, he's made an appearance here for the show. Apostle John Bundu, the lead pastor for Christian Resurrection Ministries International, Restoration Ministries International. He's with us this evening. Apostle, it's good to have you.
Yes, nice to have you too. And good evening, viewers. Nice to be here for the first time, and I believe it's going to be a wonderful time. And I'm also happy to also speak to leaders, be among the players here. And that is really nice. At some time I thought that if we have this political players, we always have the side of the spirit, to have that other and 6 eye to see 6. So thank you, whoever did it. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Next to him is Honorable Nkasa Mbigde, the Deputy President of the Democratic Party, is with us this evening. Honorable, good evening and it's good to have you.
Good to have my brother, good evening, viewers. I am equally happy. When you invite people who are playing, I think it is incumbent upon us to also maintain that degree of respect while making public utterances.
Thank you very much. Next is Honorable Okwalinga Simon Okolo, who is the Member of Parliament elect, but also the incumbent for Kanyumu County. And he's here for the second time. I was taking a while back, and now he's back. Honorable, it's good to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back, and I'm also happy to be a Member of Parliament elect for Kanyumu County in the 12th Parliament.
Wonderful. Lastly but not least, the Honorable Rosemary Seninde, the Director of Mobilization at the National Resistance Movement Secretariat. Good evening, Honorable, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, my dear and our dear viewers. I salute you, and I would like to thank God for enabling us to be here this evening. And I believe this is going to be a good interaction as we discuss issues to do with our country. But more so, I want to thank the Almighty God who has gifted Uganda this far and who has enabled the country to be this peaceful. I want to thank all of you and everyone who has been part of this journey. I'm Dr. Rosemary Nancy Seninde, the Director for Mobilization NRM Secretariat.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Rosemary. The context for the elections is that the last 3 days, Thursday last week, all the way to Saturday, before 4 p.m., the declaration was made by the Justice Simon Byabakama, who mentioned who won the presidential election at 71.6%. The second in there was the Honorable Chaplain Sentamu with 24% there. And a lot was made of that day. We lost about 4 hours on the voting day because of the biometric. The internet was shut down, but also the observers that came from the AU, East African community there, and the UN report that came in there raised a few concerns about our elections in this country. Tonight, we focus on some of the pain points there, but also deliberate on where the future of this country looks like. You can be part of the show. Go to our YouTube channel, drop a comment there, but also today we'll be using text because of some glitches in there. 0709 60 25 92. Drop your text on that and we'll be reading them at the top of the hour. Let's get into this conversation. Honorable Nkasa Mbigde, I should start with you. You and Honorable Kwalinga were in the dungeons of ensuring that you get yourselves out there. Was this election credible?
Well, I think generalizing the whole election would also be a logical impossibility. I think we will now use a multiplicity of opinions severally pursuant to regions. But we can make a general comment in limine. I would first of all say that we had established an infrastructure that was capable of delivering an election that was believable. And that infrastructure included verification of voters by biometric processes and procedures, including a machine. Now, for purposes of failure of verification of a voter, that alone now it became a logical impossibility for you to say we have had an authentic vote, which is unverified. Now, qualitatively, one would begin to say that we had a vote, people voted, but those that voted, we were incapable of verifying them biometrically, even when the infrastructure had been established. That is number one. Two, we now need to look at whether or not it was possible for the Electoral Commission apparent, going forward, after the discovery that biometrics would never work, whether it was possible for them to establish an adjustment that would in effect then deliver a substantial election where there is a verification procedure that is manual and devoid of those problems that were actually looked at where the cure was biometrics by verification. When you look at the whole of Africa, of course, Uganda had enrolled itself amongst countries that have attempted to verify voters biometrically, which included Nigeria, Kenya, Ivory Coast. But Uganda failed. So we have pulled them out under the Africa Election Index. It is out. So what happened? There was substantially supposed to be a decision taken anyway. Because you see, why would a country hold an election in a situation where in African countries we have had unconstitutional government changes, unconstitutional takeovers by governments? There is what we call, and I think this the viewers need to be taught, what we call the casus belli, the real cause for war. Elections have always been seen as the casus belli for war. They have always been a substantial cause for war. You find that a country where 98% have been polled, by the time former Zaire leader was deposed from power, he had obtained 98%. Liberia, the guy had obtained the percentage point of Iraq. So, but why would it become a casus belli? It is when the population begin to believe that actually the result of an election was not the intent and the purpose of their own vote. That is where government now must center its own aspirations and activities. So a decision had to be taken. It was a position usually we refer to as Skyland Kalibudis. It is a rock and a hard place. You have to take a decision. I have often told people that when a mosquito lands on your hand, you can hit it with ease, even without even targeting. Now that is different from when it lands on your scrotum. You have to use excessive care while attacking it. So that is what government had to do. In my opinion, when the government took a position to go forward and go ahead with the election, then the players that included both wrong and right started now exerting their own activities. In Uganda, we have got now a multiplicity of leadership centers. We have got leaders with formal employment, formal power, those that have been appointed to do specific activities. The chairman of the Electoral Commission conducts an election. He has the power to do this and that. The commissioners exist. We have minister so and so. We have the RDC. But there are those that we refer to as the eminent group, wielding informal power, that started now taking a multiplicity of decisions from wherever, christening their source of decision is above. They christened it above. That from above they are saying you declare. So there are areas where declarations were really not an apparent result of an election, of voting itself. There are areas where agents were rounded up, placed in areas where, of course, now leading towards the formal prosecution. In fact, there has been now some prosecution ongoing, but which is just a clog. It is a clog generally. we do not expect that that whoever is prosecuting any of those people will acquire convictions. It is impossible because there are no offenses committed by these agents. These were agents of those that, in effect, the multiplicity of decision makers at ground level, because I do not want to think that the state took a position against candidates. It is not true. But positions were arrived at by a multiplicity of the eminence group, local leadership, depending on the kind of activities and intents and purposes at their own disposal. There are those jostling for future ministerial positions that would think that curtailing so and so would definitely now clear the path for them. That is number one. There are those that are actually mere activists that thought by way of axiomatic faith, failing an opposition leader would in effect now get more availability of promotion in their own hand. So there are people, it is, when you look at the average state, I think the intents and the purposes of the government were to deliver a free and fair election. The failures were the result of the failure by the processes established to deliver what had been envisaged as would have been a free and fair election.
Staying with you, Honorable, a bit there, before I get to Honorable Okwalinga. You said there are informal centers of power. There are also multiple leaders at different sectors there.
Yes.
But you also believe that government did not do this deliberately to
Yes.
fail some members of parliament.
That's what I believe.
But at what point or what impact did the biometrics have on this election?
The major impact was voter verification. Because you see, the verification that had been envisaged to be performed by the machine was one, to verify the voter. That this is the actual voter. Two, verify the ballot paper. Three, verify by way of codes, even the DRA forms themselves. So the verification would move from the polling station up to the IT specialist, the clerk, the tally clerk at the district level. Now, as to whether or not that would have applied to a presidential election, there is a code that informs the president of how much he has voted. Even before the electoral commission gets to know, he gets to know. At the end of the day, this verification process would have made it impossible for players, wrong players, to establish and clone DRA forms in their own interest. Because the DRA form captured at the biometrics at the polling booth would have been the DRA form that would be accepted by the tally clerk, while again having re-verified the DRA form that is within the machine. So failure of such a process is what actually occasioned now the rampant irregularities that we are seeing, guided by those that actually intended to perform once the verification process failed.
Honorable Kolinga, let me come to you. In your county there, what was your experience like? And also, because I know that 16 districts were able to use these biometrics, and one of them being Soroti, and they're asking that they continue even tomorrow, the elections and ongoing elections. What was your experience like, and what impact did it have when you're getting back into the field of power?
Well, Timothy, for my constituents and Kumi district in general, we also had a failure of the machines. So we did not use the verification machines. And it therefore affected the commencement of the voting process. Some polling stations commenced voting around 10 o'clock. And so that affected the voter because some people got disgruntled and went back home because they had expected to commence the process by 7 a.m. But in general terms, the element of verification of voters is very pertinent to guarantee the credibility of the exercise, the fairness of the whole process of voting. And I believe that's why His Excellency the President had initially demanded that the 2026 generation must really verify by machines. But perhaps me, because these machines were tested. But I wonder why at the last moment the machines failed to operate. It disturbs me. Was it sabotage from within, or was it some individuals with ultra motives that didn't want us to have a bit credible exercise. First of all, the people that stand up as early as 7 o'clock, leaving what they are supposed to do, come and wait up to 10 o'clock. Do you think that this person will still have the momentum to continue longer? It means that someone had wanted to keep the old system of manual verification.
To what end?
To the benefit of that very individual.
You have speculated and saying there must have been someone being sabotaged. What benefit would be there for someone biometric verification? What would they be benefiting from this?
This was like I should say it was not as a policy of government, but this was something that I believe because we briefed the president that these machines will work. Yes, he suggested these machines available at the polling station, and we delivered. They were tested, and some would brief the president that these machines would be able to work. But what happened? At the last, they failed to work. Did you want to fail the president? That person want to fail the president? Or did that person a credible election? But for example, 17,000 turned up during the primaries, voted for me. But what happened to these NRM members during the final elections? Why did they turn up to vote? To the extent that they didn't reach 50%. These are questions that we ought to interrogate and find out what really all this happen. Because the president from the very beginning got concern that his votes were being stolen in previous elections. And so this time he wanted a credible election.
Was it a credible election?
In general, yes. Credible to some extent, and to high extent it was credible. Maybe I'm saying so because I won the election. Who knows? But to some they might be saying otherwise. But to me, I believe because I was able to maneuver in the system and emerge the winner amidst the challenges that I faced.
We have been joined by the old man of the country, the Andrew Wenders, magazine, independent. Good to have you. 140 140 now. 140 now. And then come back to you. Honorable Dr. Rosemary, congratulations. First as a patriot, you won by such a huge margin, and I know you were behind all this. But when you look at the results, and look at the number of people that turned out, this is the biggest apathy we have seen since the Constitution in 1995. Because 52% turned out. But this was 21, this was 6 million people expecting. 11.3, that means 10.3 million people did not show up for elections. What do you attribute that to?
First of all, I would like to thank God that the election was held, and in my view, it was held successfully. It's unfortunate that we have a number of people that did not come to vote or did not vote. Of course, many Ugandans will ask themselves this question. I personally, as the director in charge of mobilization, I was intrigued by this issue. But I want to tell you that, of course, it is something that needs to be, this phenomenon has to be interrogated, because the issue of voter turnout is something that probably we didn't anticipate as it happened. But of course, many theories are coming up. One of them is the fact that maybe the breakdown of the machines have affected the number of people that voted, because in the first place there are quite a number of people that had come early in the morning and probably expected to vote and go back to their other things. But then when there was a delay, of course a number of people left. They didn't vote. So in some places, yes, some of them were affected by the machines. But we must also not rule out the fact that probably there could have been inadequate civics and voter education. That can't be ruled out, because we see many of our elites, in most cases, don't come to vote. I remember I was interacting with a few of them, some of those that I have been able to interact with, and they were like, that is the life for holidays, so I will not go to vote, I will have to go to relax or rest or do my other things. And so it was on us to ensure that we try to talk to them, to encourage them to go to vote. Now, for those that we didn't get a chance to talk to, you just imagine. And yet, the civil servants and the elites are not a small number. So that alone also, there is a question, was there adequate education, civic and voter education? So these are some of the things that we really need to